In this episode, we hop across the pond to spend some time with one very raucous brewer. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Colin Stronge. For well over a decade, this madman has brewed at some of the UK's most influential craft breweries and gained fans across the planet. Now he is in the UNESCO village of Saltaire at the helm of the Salt Beer Factory. Welcome to No Pants During the Pandemic. Hi, and welcome to No Pants During the Pandemic. I'm your host, Kevin Brooks. In this episode, I'll be speaking with my friend, brewer Colin Stronge in the UK. Hey Colin, how you doing today?
I'm not too bad at all, Kevin. Thank you very much. I've had a long day at the brewery this morning, and I've just been doing childcare for the last few hours, but all is well.
Why don't we get started at the beginning? How'd you first get into beer?
Oddly, I think I started this backwards to most people. I think most people kind of got into brewing by really enjoying beer and really liking it, and sort of developed wanting to know more about the process as it was going on. I grew up in rural Ireland, drinking a lot of really, really shitty beer. And as far as that was concerned, I think beer was mostly a medium towards getting drunk rather than any sort of real flavour enjoyment. But when I moved to England and I dropped out of university, I was working in a brew pub, just helping out serving beer, basically, and didn't really know what to do with myself. I was just kind of twiddling my thumbs a bit, and the head brewer at the brewery was the son of the guy who ran the bar, and they couldn't really work together. They used to argue like cat and dog. The brewer gave us notice and decided he was going to leave, and his dad came to me and asked me if I would consider taking the brewery on, because I was the only person there with time on my hands, basically. At the time, for me, I was like, oh, sweet, just I could do with the hours. I need the money to pay the bills. But then once I got into it, I really enjoyed the processes, and then sort of learned about the flavors from there. And then it just kind of snowballed, really. It was always supposed to be sort of a stopgap for a year or two. That was 19 years ago now. So, yeah, been around a little bit.
But you didn't stay there too long.
From there, I moved over to Marble Brewery in Manchester, and I was there part-time while I was sort of studying in Manchester. Again, I was supposed to be there for about a year while I was finishing off my degree, and I ended up staying there for 9 years, or just shy of 9 years, I think.
You had a bit of a dream team working at Marble, didn't you?
Some people have said that Marble was quite an influential brewery in the UK scene, and the three guys who were running it whilst we were there. So it was James Campbell, who, when he left, was one of the founders of Cloudwater, doing quite well. Dominic Driscoll, who's production manager at Thornbridge Brewery now, and myself. So the three guys who sort of went on, and even as influential as the brewery itself was, have gone on to kind of do other things that have sort of themselves become quite influential.
Not too shabby. Where'd you go from there?
Then after 9 years there, I was offered a job as head brewer at Black Owl Brewery up in the Highlands of Scotland. When I moved up there, that was my first proper head brewer's job, where I in some way felt like I knew what I was doing and had some sort of control. Really enjoyed that. That was a lot more kind of production based, but it was just a little bit far from everywhere. And then I ended up taking a job down at Buxton Brewery in Derbyshire in the Peak District. Really beautiful part of the world, and I ran the brewery there for just shy of 5 years. Yeah, and then from there I took a job up in Leeds with Northern Monk Brewery, and then I've moved over to Salt Beer Factory in Saltaire, where I am now.
What can you tell me about Saltaire?
So Salt Beer Factory is based in a small town called Saltaire, which is just between Leeds and Bradford. It's a historical town. It was one of the first factory towns built by a guy called Titus Salt, who was a real innovator. He built cotton mills in the town centre and then built the whole of the town around it. So the whole village is UNESCO listed. It's really picturesque. And the brewery is in a Grade 2 listed building. It's a former tram shed.
When did the brewery open?
We opened just under 18 months ago, and I became head brewer there in January last year.
How did you get on board?
My personal dream has been to have my own brew pub. That's kind of what I always really wanted to do. So they opened with another brewer, and he only stayed around for a few months. But I just kind of stuck my oar in. I know Paul over at Ossett and I've known him for a while. We were just chatting about what the idea was for it. And it just seemed like a really good fit and a little bit more my style of things.
You mentioned Paul from Ossett, so Salt Beer Factory is owned by another brewery.
We're owned by another brewery called Ossett. They're kind of a big family-sized brewery making really great, flavorful, traditional cask ales, kind of a mix of old and newer styles. So a lot of kind of New World hops in sort of traditional bitters and pale ales and things. They've got a large pub estate. And the original idea for Salt Beer Factory was that we were going to go in and basically just brew lager for all of the estate so we could take the likes of Carling, Foster's, Carlsberg, whatever, of the pubs and just have the lager for the estate. But once we sourced the kit we were going to work with, we realized the potential of what we could do with it. It's a 3-vessel brew house. So we've got a mash tun, lauter tun, and whirlpool kettle combo, which means we can do a whole lot of different things. Usually in the UK, you generally, most breweries have got a 2-vessel system. So it'll just be mash tun, lauter, and kettle whirlpool. But we got the extra vessel, which means we're just a bit more versatile and we can brew a lot wider range of things. Then the idea of the brewery kind of moved quite quickly from just doing lager for the Ossett estate to doing something a lot more hop forward and a lot more modern in style. But once we got in and started playing around on the kit a little bit, we kind of do some porters, some stouts, quite a lot of IPAs, but we've done some saisons, some pale ales. Yeah, we try to keep diverse and try to keep things moving on.
And where's the beer generally available?
The brew pub sells a reasonable amount of what we do, and we have 2 other pubs directly under us that sell a lot of our brands. But outside of that, the beer, we have a web shop where we sell sort of straight to the customer, but we also deal with a lot of distributors around the UK.
Hold on a second. What you drinking, Colin?
So my wife works for Magic Rock Brewing over in Huddersfield. So I'm drinking their Common Grounds coffee porter. It's really nice. When I was still working at Buxton, this was released. And we had just brewed a beer just called Extra Porter, which was a coffee, cacao, and vanilla porter. And the day we released it, I saw this that come out from Magic Rock. And it honestly tasted side by side. They could be the same beer. Quite funny because I've known the guys over there for years. Stu and Rich, very good friends of mine. And yeah, that was just like, it's kind of funny that we've done this, but my wife wasn't working there at the time. We were completely unconnected. It was just complete coincidence.
You mentioned your wife. How are you and Vic managing things with work and caring for your young son during the pandemic?
Yes, so that's been a little bit of a challenge. Vicky's been working from home for 3 or 4 weeks now. I think the first week she was back, Fionn was still in childcare, so that didn't really sort of knock us too bad. But obviously we were aware that it was probably going to get closed down at some point. Childcare closed then the second week. So at the moment, I used to work sort of a 7-3 over at the brewery. But since the shutdown, I've been working 5 till 1, then coming home, looking after the kid for the rest of the day so Vicky can get on and get some work done. And then we're trying to sort of squeeze an hour together in the evenings where and when we can, but it's not always been possible. Mostly due to the fact that I come in and just go, I'm going to bed. I've done enough now.
I'm sure Vic loves that. What's the brewery doing in all this?
But pretty much from the moment I started, we were at capacity. So we can just finding ways of sort of maximizing tank turnover, making sure that we're getting the most out of our time, making sure obviously the beers are right, but then getting them out as quickly as we can to allow ourselves to brew more. So we sort of got ourselves into the cycle at the end of last year. We were looking at 2 double brews and a single brew a week, so making 100 hectoliters of wort a week. We thought when the shutdown came in that we were probably going to turn ourselves down to about 40 hec a week, essentially just to keep the yeast going and kind of keep a couple of brands going. But luckily for us, we have a couple of supermarkets have just taken some beer, and another supermarket have come online. They're having 12,000 litres of beer in a couple of weeks. So we've actually found ourselves in a situation where we're brewing twice what we were expecting to, and we're doing 80 hec a week.
That's great. I hear you're also trying a novel way to engage with your customers during the shutdown.
So with the web shop going live, we kind of wanted to keep people in the loop as to what we're doing. Another guy from the brewery, actually, the director of Brewing, did a home brew on Saturday. He basically is in charge of 5 breweries across the Ossett estate and then home brews at the weekends. I think he quite likes beer. So someone had suggested to him that he do a home brew and sort of live tweeted as to what he was up to and what was going on. I had phoned Ned at the brewery and was like, I think it'd work really well if we were to do something similar. It was this Sunday actually that I talked to him about it, and I was saying, oh, it's Good Friday on Friday, so even the people who haven't been furloughed or aren't working from home are potentially everyone's going to be off. So I guarantee there'll be a lot of home brewers out there wanting to brew as well. So tomorrow, I'm going to basically start mashing at 7:30 and tweet and do some photos and videos of what's going on during the day. I sort of openly said if anyone wants to contact me, I'll give them a copy of the recipe and they can work through and like try and follow the brew if they like. And I've had between 30 and 40 homebrewers message me for the recipe, saying they're going to get involved, going to get along. I've been sort of advising a couple of them on some changes they can make because they couldn't get hold of certain amounts of the hops we're using or a certain grain or the specific yeast variety we're using. And yeah, there's been actually really good engagement with it.
Will you keep doing them?
Yeah, we were just having a discussion actually with the office. We talked today about doing our first new beer since the lockdown. We hit on the idea today that if tomorrow goes well, we will open part of the design of this beer up to the public. I'll let some of the homebrewers get involved in it that way, and then include them on the label and treat it like a collaboration with them, basically. So we'll get some of their ideas in and design a beer around the type of thing that they want to make.
That's really cool. On a serious note, because of the shutdown, Salt has furloughed pretty much everybody at the brewery and the pub. What are they doing to help those furloughed employees?
We're trying our best to make sure that everyone's safe and secure. It's kind of tricky, but everyone who's been furloughed got their full month's pay last month. All of the part-time staff got an average of what they'd done in the previous 3 months, I think. We made a chat this week. We sort of said to all of the guys from the brewery specifically, but we're going to spread it out to the pub estate next month if this rolls on, which I think we're fairly certain it will now. We'll send everyone a case of beer a month just to make sure that they know what we're still up to, but also hopefully to give them a little something to stop them all getting bored and going stir crazy. One of the major things we've striving to do during the close down is, like I was saying, there's 32 pubs in the whole of the Ossett estate. And our goal is by the time they allow us everything to reopen and we get ourselves back running again, that we won't have shed a single employee. And that's something that we're really working really hard to do. And that's why essentially we've taken ourselves to double the capacity we had been doing.
So how many people are still working to help you get to those levels?
So the two of us now just running the whole place on our own. Ned, who's the director of Salt, is at the moment not being very directorial and packing web shop orders. And I'm looking after all the brewing and transferring and all the word handling, basically.
And the British government stepped up to help too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The government have actually, it was really shocked to me. I'm very openly critical of our current government. I won't go into that quite as deeply as I might have, but we're not best friends. But they've actually been really, really good in their response to the outbreak. They have doing quite well with the self-employed. We thought they might get left kind of hung out to dry a little bit, and they were going to put them on just statutory sick pay, which I think is about £90 a week, which doesn't leave you a lot after kind of either rent or mortgage. But they've actually put them on a decent pay. All furloughed staff across the UK, they are paying the companies 80% of everyone's wage. So they've done quite a good job with that. A lot better than even I think a lot of people were expecting. Even a lot of their supporters weren't expecting that much. Maybe a 50% or 60, but 80 kind of knocked it out of the park. We were quite surprised.
That's a lot different than how things are done in the US. Another is the NHS, the National Health Service.
God bless those people. They're doing what, I mean, they're doing what is an absolutely thankless task really out there at the moment. It must be a nightmare. I can't imagine that. My cousin works on the front line in a hospital just outside Swindon, and some of the stories coming back are pretty horrific. God bless them. They're earning a lot of money, but they're doing a really wonderful job over here, and they're trying their best in the situation. And that's the whole thing with sort of why everyone's been asked to stay at home. They're trying to flatten the curve off, as I'm sure everyone keeps hearing. But it's basically so that the hospitals don't become overloaded. That I think we're kind of going to have to accept that X amount of people are going to get the virus or going to be really hard hit by it. And it's a way of keeping enough people away from the hospitals, or keeping that everyone can be treated and no one has to be sort of left on the doorstep, as it were.
Thanks, Colin. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No. because I can't think on my feet very well at the moment. I think the tiredness is finally set in.
I'm so putting that in.
I was afraid you might.
All right, go and get some sleep. I'll speak with you soon.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
If you'd like to learn more about the Salt Beer Factory, visit their website. And if you're in the UK, you can have beer delivered to your door through their online shop. The links are in the video's description. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Be safe.